The family coat of arms is a traditional distinctive sign of a family and clan, a true family emblem passed down to descendants by inheritance. It depicts objects symbolizing certain values inherent in a given family, and each element has its own meaning. Since ancient times, the colors on the family coat of arms mean, the gold field of the shield, according to heraldic canons, is a symbol of justice, mercy, generosity, constancy, strength and loyalty, a symbol of wealth, nobility and power. Silver is a symbol of innocence, purity and truthfulness. Red is a symbol of love, courage and greatness. Blue is a symbol of honesty and loyalty. Green is a symbol of abundance, hope, freedom and joy. Purple, red with a shade of blue, is a symbol of generosity, dignity, power. Black symbolizes high education and scholarship. In my book, King Solomon's Ring, I described a ring that was passed down in our family from generation to generation, which was created at the direction of an angel who came to my ancestor in a dream. This image can rightfully be interpreted as heraldic. All 12 tribes of Israel had their own symbols based on metaphors, dreams, and prophecies contained in the blessings of Jacob and Moses. These symbols were depicted on the flag of each of the 12 tribes, so they can well be considered the predecessors of coats of arms. For example, the symbol of the tribe of Judah is a lion, the symbol of the tribe of Dan is scales, the symbol of the tribe of Asher is an olive tree, and the symbol of the tribe of Benjamin is a wolf devouring fire. In our time, Marc Chagall created a series of stained glass windows with images of 12 coats of arms, and in 1955, the Israeli Post Office issued a collection of 12 stamps with 12 coats of arms, which became famous. In the book, The Jewish Stone, I also described that my maternal grandfather was descended from Samuel Polyakov, who was granted nobility by the Russian Tsar. When I contacted the descendants of the Russian Tsar and the Heraldry Society in Russia, they answered, inheritance is only through an unbroken male line. After consulting with heraldry experts, I ordered the creation and registration of my family coat of arms based on ancient images and written evidence available to our family. Throughout Jewish history, family coats of arms existed in some parts of the diaspora. This phenomenon was especially widespread in Italy. The coats of arms of Jewish families, which decorated books, family heirlooms and, of course, tombstones, featured the already familiar symbols of tribes, symbols of professions or objects associated with the family name and origin of their owners. On the coats of arms of the Cohens, palms spread out in blessing appeared, and on the coat of arms of the Sulam family of Mantova, a ladder. In modern Israel, there are no family coats of arms at all. More precisely, almost none, since two families nevertheless brought their coats of arms to the Holy Land from the diaspora. At the entrance to the Gaini Hanadiv garden complex near Zikron Yaakov, one can see the impressive Rothschild family coat of arms. On one side, a lion holds a shield divided into 4 fields, on the other, a unicorn. In the upper left field, there is an Austrian eagle, in memory of the fact that it was the Austrian Empire that granted the Rothschilds the baronial title. In the center of the coat of arms is a medieval hat similar to those that the authorities required the Jews of Frankfurt to wear. At the bottom is the Latin motto of the family, Concordia, Industria, Integritas, Unity, Diligence, Honesty. Its main element, a hand holding 5 arrows, symbolizes the unity of the family members, which was founded by 5 brothers. Another Israeli family crest, the Montefiore family crest with the Hebrew word Yerushalayim, may be considered the most beautiful of all examples of Israeli heraldry. Permission for Sir Moses Montefiore to use Hebrew letters, along with the English motto, Think and Thank, was obtained from Queen Victoria herself, and the crest was officially registered in the 19th century. But its design almost exactly repeats the embroidery on the curtain for the books of the Torah, which one of Sir Moses' ancestors gave to the Ancona synagogue back in 1635. In the Middle Ages, Jews in Europe used coats of arms on the same basis as representatives of all other groups in society. They placed them on their property, marriage contracts, ketubah, and tombstones. Moreover, they used coats of arms not only in intertribal use, but also in official contacts with non-believers. This is confirmed by the seals attached to such documents, many of which often have emblems that can be rightfully interpreted as heraldic. Some seals also contain coats of arms, i.e. heraldic images in the field of the shield. The most famous example of this kind is a seal, a rising lion in the field of the shield, dating back to the beginning of the 14th century and belonging to a certain Kalonymus bar Todros from Narbonne, the head of the local Jewish community. His son, Todros bar Kalonymus, used the same sign, directly inherited from his father, which is an additional argument in favor of the existence of heraldic practice in the Jewish environment in its traditional sense. A number of individual heraldic signs, clearly intended to emphasize the Jewish origin of the owner of the coat of arms, the seven-branched menorah, a wide-brimmed hat of a special shape, or the hands of a priest Cohen, folded in a gesture of blessing, etc. This is the national contribution of Jewry to the arsenal of heraldic emblems. In the engraving by Hans Birkmayer, Die Drei Geden Juden, 1516, in the Shield of Jesus Naven, 3 bulls' heads frontal, the coat of arms of King David, a harp surrounded by a dental border along the perimeter of the shield, in the black shield of Judas Maccabee, a rising lion with a human head in the same Jewish hat as the leader. The leader of the National Liberation War here is the only one in whose attire there is an element that reveals his Jewishness. The colors of the coats of arms can be easily reconstructed from the tiny letters, indices of heraldic tinctures, with which the artist, and an outstanding heraldic artist, marked the coat of arms fields and the emblems in them. With regard to Jewish heraldry, the fact is that the same coat of arms figures could be symbolically interpreted in completely different ways. The cultures of the Jewish and Christian populations of medieval Europe were very different from each other, having at their core the same source, the Tanakh, also known as the written Torah of Judaism, and the Old Testament of Christianity. The practice of heraldic emblems was interpreted by the Jews in their own way, in accordance with their system of values and in line with their own cultural ideas. Using the same images as the Jews, European Christians gave them completely different, familiar symbolic meanings. For example, a pelican tearing its breast to feed its chicks with its own blood was for a Christian a symbol of Jesus, who atoned for the sins of mankind with his blood. For a Jew, who did not accept the Christian postulate of atonement, such an interpretation was meaningless. For the pelican is, first of all, an image of the Torah, which nourishes the people of Israel. In the same way, the pomegranate, a symbol of resurrection and chastity in Christian culture, was understood by Jews as an image of the people of Israel, the land of Israel and the 613 mitzvot, commandments. This is how many there are in the Torah. A striking example of the difference in interpretations is the image of a lion, a popular heraldic figure. Christians interpreted this emblem very broadly. It personified dominion, and royal dignity, and military valor, and the power of faith, etc., etc. In Jewish culture, the lion has always been understood very specifically, as a lion on the banner of the tribe of Judah, one of the sons of Jacob. This interpretation is associated with Jacob's dying blessing of Judah, Genesis 49 verses 8 to 12. It was believed, and is still believed, that European Jewry comes from 2 tribes, Judah and Benjamin. Of no small importance was the idea that the long-awaited Messiah would also belong to the tribe of Judah and the line of King David. Thus, the inclusion of a lion in the Jewish coat of arms can be interpreted in at least 3 ways, as a simple indication of belonging to Judaism, and as a claim to Davidic origin, and as an expression of messianic aspirations. Jewish culture did not leave a monument similar to the numerous medieval bestiaries and encyclopedias, and therefore the reconstruction of the meaning of this or that symbol has to be carried out on the basis of the Tanakh, rabbinical commentaries and midrashim, as well as various indirect sources. Nevertheless, attempts to deprive medieval Jewry of the right to its own voice in the heraldic sphere, reducing all its diverse heraldic practice to simple borrowings, are completely unfounded, especially since there are compelling examples confirming the opposite. Heraldic traditions in the coats of arms of the 12 tribes of Israel. The Jews of Italy, who were the most active users of coats of arms, often tried to find justification for themselves in the Tanakh, citing quotations that pointed to the antiquity and, moreover, a kind of birthright of Jewish heraldry. Rabbi Gedalia ibn Yehya describes in his work Shalshalat HaKabbalah, 1587, when asked, did families in former times make any signs, called arm, to identify themselves as they do now? In his answer he described in detail the symbols which, according to tradition, were on the dgalim, banners, flags, of the 12 tribes, thus attempting to prove that all nations took this as a model when they made banners for their armies in time of war, as well as coats of arms for their families. The tradition in question had 3 sources in the Torah. First, Jacob's dying blessing, in which he compares his many sons to various animals, plants, and man-made objects, Genesis 49 verses 1-28. Secondly, the dying blessing of Moses, partially complementing Jacob's, Deuteronomy 33, and, finally, the verse from the book of Numbers, beginning with the words, "And the Lord spoke to Moses and Aaron, saying, The children of Israel shall pitch every man by his standard, by the ensign of his father's house." Number 2:1-2. A bizarre mixture of these 3 primary sources already appears in the commentaries of rabbinic literature, the most important of which, in terms of its influence on subsequent heraldry, is considered to be the Midrash B'midbar Rabbah 2:7, which says, "Each prince had his own distinctive sign, each had a banner, and all the banners were of a different color, corresponding to the color of the stones on Aaron's breastplate." From this the rulers adopted the habit of adopting banners of different colors. Each tribe had its prince and its banner, the color of which corresponded to the color of its stone. Then follows a description of the banners of the 12 tribes, according to which, the stone of Reuben was a sardius, and his banner was red, and mandrakes were embroidered on it. The stone of Simeon was a topaz, and his banner was green, the city of Shechem was embroidered on it. The stone of Levi was an emerald, therefore his banner was 1/3 white, 1/3 black, and 1/3 red, Urim and Thummim were embroidered on it. The stone of Judah was a carbuncle, and the color of his banner was the color of heaven, a lion was embroidered on it. The stone of Issachar was a sapphire, and his banner was black as antimony, and the sun and the moon were embroidered on it, for it was said, "Of the sons of Issachar men who understand the time." The stone of Zebulun was an emerald, the color of his banner was white, and a ship was embroidered on it, for it was said, "Zebulun shall dwell by the seashore, and by the haven of ships." The stone of Dan is a jacinth, the color of his standard is like a sapphire, and a serpent is embroidered on it, for it is said, "Dan shall be a serpent by the way." The stone of Gad is an agate, and the color of his standard is neither white nor black, but white and black together, the camp of the army is embroidered on it, for it is said, "Gad, the multitude shall throng him." The stone of Naphtali is an amethyst, and his standard is like clear wine of a shallow red color, a roe is embroidered on it, for it is said, "Naphtali is a free roe." The stone of Asher is a beryl, his standard is the color of a precious stone with which women adorn themselves, an olive tree is embroidered on it, for it is said, "Asher, his bread is fat." The stone of Joseph is an onyx, his standard is black, the sign of Egypt is embroidered on it for the 2 princes, Ephraim and Manasseh, for they were born in Egypt. On the banner of Ephraim is a bull, for it is said, "His strength is like the firstborn bull," which refers to Joshua, who comes from the tribe of Ephraim. On the banner of Manasseh is embroidered a buffalo, for it is said, "His horns are like the horns of a buffalo," which refers to Gideon, who comes from the tribe of Manasseh. They said that one Jew from Sokolovka, "My wife's mother is from this shtetl," having learned to read and write in Russian and not knowing the address, sent a letter to the capital, writing the following address in block letters on the envelope, Reb Shlomo Polyakov in St. Petersburg. In the letter, he only cautiously asked, "Is it true that a newspaper is now being published in the Russian capital for those Jews who can read Russian?" The letter arrived. Within a week, he received a reply from Solomon Polyakov himself, whom he had never seen in his life, but only knew that he was from a neighboring shtetl. He received a large envelope with a folded newspaper inside. He straightened it out and was at first surprised by the title, Russian Jew. Reb Samuel, a banker, informed him that he had subscribed to the newspaper for him. The newspaper would now be sent to him every week. After receiving each issue of the newspaper, the synagogue translated the Russian text into Yiddish. The listeners were amazed and surprised by the news. They discussed it. The pogroms in Ukraine, the first chuppah held in Madrid, from which the Jews, as was known, had been expelled 400 years ago, they said that in distant New York, where some local people had already moved, there were now 30 synagogues, but there were many more Jews there, 600,000, who had come not only from Russia, but also from other countries. But it was surprising that many of their former countrymen were not listed as parishioners of the synagogue. They knew about it, but did not go there. The news of the kindness of Samuel Polyakov reached his native places. In Dubrovno, a local, not wanting to burden his fellow countrymen with additional expenses, turned to another, but also well-known Jew. He asked him his question, writing it in Yiddish: "Is it true that somewhere people have invented such an amazing machine that sews by itself, you just have to turn the handle?" The address in Russian was written by a local clerk, to Mr. Baron Ginsburg, who lives in St. Petersburg. Although the Baron's surname was somewhat different, not like all the local Ginsburgs, the letter, however, was not lost. The answer also came very quickly. The address on the received envelope was, of course, written in Russian, but the letter itself was written in pure Yiddish: "Thank you for your kind letter. First, I draw your attention to the fact that in it you call me Ginsburg, but I am Ginsburg, after the name of an old small German city in Bavaria, in the Swabian region, near Ulm, where my distant ancestors lived. I received your letter." What happened next was completely amazing. After some time, an unusually heavy parcel arrived in Dubrovno. Everything was paid for it and its postage. The parcel came from far away, either from Germany or from America, with instructions on how the machine works, how to thread the thread, what to do if the thread breaks. From the company, Singer. You could read the large letters right on the machine, Singer, that is, Singer. Having received such wealth simply as a gift, one could really sing loudly. A real sewing miracle. A handheld machine that really quickly connects patches, and in addition so firmly, evenly and smoothly, as no tailor could connect them. The tailor and his family, who had become wealthy, soon changed their place of residence. Thanks to the gift of Baron Ginsburg, whom he had never seen in his life, the tailor quickly became rich, and in Dubrovno, where only the poor lived, he soon had no clients at all. They said that with the Baron's gift he went to live and sew in neighboring Smolensk, which was part of the Pale of Jewish settlement, that is, to a place where a Jew was allowed to live, engage in a craft, have clients. And a few years later, a successful, courteous young doctor, the tailor's son, had an extensive practice in Smolensk. I was still very small, but I remember my grandfather, my mother's father. I loved to rummage through his desk drawer. I remember his gift, a pistol that fired loud caps. My grandfather died very early. I had not yet gone to school. He died suddenly near the 4th Polyclinic in the city of Kharkov. He died the same way as his father. According to my grandmother, his father was Samuel Polyakov. My grandfather was his illegitimate son. After the revolution, my grandfather ended up in an orphanage, where they changed his patronymic in honor of Lenin and he became Efim Ilyich Polyakov. According to my great-grandmother, his mother, my grandfather had private teachers and he read a lot. I personally remember my grandfather always dressed in a Stalinist jacket. He worked in Gazprom. I mainly got information about Samuel Polyakov from my great-grandmother and from the internet. My grandfather did not talk about this topic. Samuel Polyakov, Shmuel, 1837–1888, St. Petersburg, railroad builder, banker, philanthropist. In the early 1860s, he was the owner of a post station in the Kharkov province. He leased land from the Minister of Posts and Telegraphs, Count I. Tolstoy, who provided him with protection during the distribution of railroad concessions, 1860–70s. Polyakov built the Kozlovo-Voronezh-Ostrovskaya, or Lovograyskaya, Kursk-Kharkov-Azov, Fastovskaya and many other railroads, establishing, together with his brothers, railroad companies in which he had a controlling stake. The government entrusted him with the construction of strategic railways in Romania, Bandarogalatka and Fortesti-Zimnitskaya, during the Russo-Turkish War of 1877–78. For the unprecedentedly fast construction and reliability of these roads, Polyakov received the highest award at the World Exhibition in Paris, 1878. In total, he laid about 2.6 thousand kilometers of railway tracks. He founded the Society of the South Russian Coal Industry, as well as the Moscow Land Bank, the Don Land Bank, and the Azovstan Commercial Bank. In 1870, SS Polyakov was awarded the title of Commerce Advisor and the rank of State Councillor for his services in the development of industry and railways, and in 1884, the rank of Actual State Councillor. This rank, according to the laws in force, gave him the right to ask for the granting of noble title to him and his descendants. This granting of noble status to the Polyakovs caused a storm of discontent among the defenders of traditions and noble privileges. New noble families had the right to be enrolled in the provincial noble society. However, this enrollment was not obvious, since the noble societies of the provinces could refuse to enroll new nobles into their society, especially if they were Jewish nobles. The question of the right of Jewish nobles to membership in noble societies rested on the contradiction between the privileges of the Russian nobility, on the one hand, and the social status of Jews in Russian society. Jewish nobles, like their co-religionists from other classes of the Russian Empire, were deprived of their rights in comparison with non-Jewish nobles. The noble societies of the provinces refused Jewish nobles the right to be accepted into noble society. The stone of Benjamin is jasper, and the color of his banner was a combination of 12 colors. Embroidered on it was a wolf, for it is said, Benjamin is a ravenous wolf. The words, by his banner, by the signs of his families, Numbers 2:1-2, were understood as an unambiguous indication of the transmission of these ancient coats of arms by inheritance, and on a number of marriage contracts of Italian Jews one can find next to the coat of arms the inscription, Degelbeit AV, the banner of the Father's house. Italian Jews were generally more active in the heraldic space than their co-religionists from other European countries. Only individual coats of arms have come down to us from the Sephardim, who lived on the territory of the Iberian Peninsula until 1492, and from the Ashkenazim of France and Germany, and most of our knowledge about the rootedness of heraldic practice in their environment is based on seals and near-heraldic symbols. The number of currently known coats of arms of the Jews of Italy is estimated at several hundred. Their most characteristic feature, in addition to the abundance of lions, is the widespread use of the so-called vowel, talking, emblems, when the heraldic figure directly or indirectly hints at the family name of its owners. For example, the coat of arms of the Gallico family features a rooster, Italian gallo. The coat of arms of the Cohen Vitali family depicts a tree, on either side of which are two hands in the Cohen gesture of blessing. The tree in this case symbolizes the tree of life, Italian, vita, life, consonant with the surname of the owners of the coat of arms, and two hands are the traditional emblem of the Kohanim, used by many families tracing their origins to this priestly caste. Likewise, a hand with a jug, pouring water into a bowl supported by the other hand is a symbol of families descended from the Levites. The conclusion from all that has been said above is the undeniable fact that the Jews who lived in Western Europe in the Middle Ages had a full-fledged heraldic practice. In the Talmud, there is a ban on reproducing copies of temple objects before the restoration of the temple, in particular the menorah that illuminated the temple. Although the Tanakh contains a description of the 7-branched candlesticks of the temple, how exactly they look down to the smallest detail is unknown. From the book of the prophet Zechariah, I saw, behold, a lampstand all of gold, and 7 lamps on it, and 2 olive trees on it, one on the right, and the other on the left. The menorah, unlike the 6-pointed star, is not found in any other nation. As for the 2 olive branches on either side of the menorah, the prophet Zechariah used them to represent 2 types of leaders of the Jewish people in ancient times, the high priest from the line of Aaron and the king from the line of David. Although the Tanakh contains a description of the temple's 7-branched candlesticks, What exactly they looked like, down to the smallest detail, is unknown. The two main types of historical sources, on the one hand, Jewish, ancient mosaics and coins, and on the other, the famous image on the triumphal arch of Titus in Rome, present slightly different images. The modern embodiment of the heraldry of the 12 tribes can be seen today in the symbols of the units of the Israeli army, the IDF. The lion from the coat of arms of the tribe of Judah is depicted on the coat of arms of the Central Military District, and the deer from the coat of arms of the tribe of Naphtali. This symbol was given to the descendants of Naphtali for being the first, faster than anyone else, to bring the news to his father that Joseph was alive, was borrowed when creating the logo of the Israeli post office. The same lion also adorns the coat of arms of Jerusalem. The book, The Ring of King Solomon, describes an excerpt from an article by the Russian homeopathic physician K. Boyanis, published in 1882 in the journal Homeopathy in Russia. So, on the velvet tablecloth, in front of those gathered, lay a piece of green African jasper, yashbi, as it was called in the Hebrew language. Its length was equal to 1/3 of a sieve, 18.672 centimeters, its width was half of a tefek, approximately 9.336 centimeters, its thickness was 1/6 of a tefek. On the nasty side, signs were carved. The stone was multicolored, it combined green and black colors, and in the middle of the stone there was a natural image in the form of a black spot similar to the image of the pupil of the eye. The inscription on the stone was made in the font of Old Hebrew writing. Seeing the amazement of those present, the rabbi continued, "It means, the top word, written in larger letters, Binyami. The second line, Shivti Yudkhey, which means the tribes of God. It is impossible to say for sure whether this stone is from the breastplate of the high priest or whether it is a copy of it. The second relic is a piece of silver weighing 4.69 zuz, which is equivalent to 2.34 shekels. This piece was left over from the silver from which the Moshe trumpets were cast." He also said that a ring must be made from the piece of silver that was left over from the making of the Moshe trumpets. This ring should have the following image: in the middle of the circle there should be a diptych with rounded upper edges, which stands firmly on the ground. It sacredly depicts the tablets of the covenant. If you stand behind this diptych, then on the right side there should be a wall of the Jerusalem temple and 4 praying Jews. The 4 praying Jews are supposed to signify, first of all, that from which everything is built, Ogo, Voda, Vazdu, Zemlya. They also signify the 4 cardinal directions. They signify the main virtues of man, standardity, fortitude, blessings, and mercy. On the left side of the diptych there should be a sower depicted sowing seeds of the Word of God into the ground on which the diptych stands firmly. Around the perimeter there should be a verse from the Psalms of David, Psalm 136, verse 5. "If I forget your Jehovah, let my hand be stopped." Above the diptych there should be a depiction of the Star of David, below on the ground on which the diptych stands there should be written the family name Shulmovich. The image on the ring can be rightfully interpreted as a heraldic image granted to my ancestors as a coat of arms. See the book, The Ring of King Solomon. According to the traditions handed down in my family, we trace our genealogy from the tribe of Benjamin. This is confirmed not only by traditions and legends handed down in the family, but it is also confirmed by the presence of unique ancient relics in the family, which are described in the books, King Solomon's Ring, Jewish Stone, Wedding Ring. According to the traditions handed down in my wife's family, her family also traces its lineage from the tribe of Benjamin. From Mordecai, who is described in the scroll, Purim, Sivlikni is even the fact that we met and began to meet with my wife on July 23, 1975, AV 15, 5735 according to the Jewish calendar. After graduating from the medical institute, I went to rest in the village of Korobavi Katora near the city of Kharkiv. On July 20th, I returned to the city, home. I had to start preparing for an internship. This is a very significant day. All historical milestones associated with the day of the 15th of AV are events that unite the people of Israel. The abolition of restrictions on intergenerational marriages marked the beginning of a long process of integration of Jews into a single nation. Because the most important thing in national unity is intercommunal marriages, the children of which belong to more than one tribe. On this day, the terrible fratricidal war between the 11 tribes and the tribe of Benjamin was ended. On this day, the borders between the two Jewish kingdoms, northern and southern, were abolished. After the division of the Holy Land into two kingdoms after the death of King Solomon in the year 2964 from the creation of the world, 797 BC, Jeroboam ben Navat, the ruler of the rebellious northern kingdom of Israel, established checkpoints on the roads and forbade his citizens to perform 3 times an hour pilgrimage to the Holy Temple in Jerusalem, the capital of the southern kingdom of Judah. More than 200 years later, Hosea ben Elah, the last king of the northern kingdom, finally removed these borders on the 15th of AV in the year 3187 from the creation of the world, 574 BC. There were no greater holidays in Israel than Yom Kippur and the 15th of AV, says the Talmudic tractate Tanit. In general, the idea of a ceremonial full moon is close to many peoples who honor ancient traditions, which is why almost all Jewish major holidays of the year, for example, Pesach, Sukkot, and Tu B'Shvat, fall on the 15th day of each Jewish month. It is on the 15th day of each Jewish month that the moon reaches its maximum fullness, shines with reflected light and looks like a full disk. The first important aspect of this day in Jewish history was revealed during the beginning of the wanderings of the Jews in the desert. On the 9th of AV, adult men of the Exodus generation were supposed to start digging their own graves as punishment for believing the spies and crying, refusing to enter the Promised Land, aka Canaan, aka Israel and Judea. It was absolutely forbidden to listen to the spies. But the people listened to the spies and began to weep. Once again, blame Moshe for leading them astray and doubt his words and prophecies. Refusing to enter the Promised Land, the adult men of the Exodus generation dig their own graves in the desert, and sleep in them, and in the morning only a part of the people rise from them. Thus, the older generation begins to die out, but the youth remains, who had nothing to do with the sins of the golden calf, the sins of the spies, and who do not remember the taste of slavery in Egypt. A generation of free people grows up. It is one thing to bring information, and another thing to impose your conclusions about whether the Jews will be able to conquer the Promised Land or not. The scouts returned with contradictory information. They said that the fruits there were huge and beautiful, rivers of milk and honey, but that the land was inhabited by terrible strongmen and giants. About 40 years passed, and, once again awaiting the appointed punishment, the 9th of AV, the next morning the Jews suddenly discovered that everyone was alive. No one would have to die anymore. Doubts gnawed at the Jews until the 15th of AV, until the magnificent full moon rose. Since the moon is full, and it always becomes full on the 15th day of the month, it means that the 9th of AV has already passed. It passed without a single death. On the 15th of AV there was no limit to the joy and happiness. The punishment was over, the atonement was complete. On the 15th of AV other significant events took place. Usually they finished preparing firewood for the temple services, since after this day the sun's heat weakened, and insects could already appear in the firewood. During the Second Temple era, during the reign of Nehemiah, a decision was made to regularly deliver wood to the temple for the altar, and we cast lots for the wood, the priests, the Levites, and the people, according to which of our families, at appointed times, year by year, we should bring it to the house of our God, to burn on the altar of the Lord our God, according to what was written in the law. Nehemiah 10 verse 35. This wood was delivered to the temple in 9 batches, at strictly established times. The first batch was brought to the temple on the 1st of Nisan, and the last on the 15th of AV, Mishnah Tanit 4:5. This event was celebrated feasting and rejoicing, during which they broke the axe handles, which gave this day its name. Day of breaking the axes, according to the Mishnah, delivering firewood to the sanctuary was a man's job. However, the 15th of AV became a holiday for women, or rather, for unmarried girls, who went out on this day to dance in the vineyards in their best clothes. Rabban Shimon ben Gamliel said, "There was no holiday in Israel like the 15th of Av and Yom Kippur, when the daughters of Jerusalem go out in white clothes, which they borrow, so as not to embarrass those who do not have them. Each garment must be dipped in the mikveh. So the daughters of Jerusalem go out and dance in the vineyards." And what did they say? "Young man, lift up your eyes and see whom you will choose for yourself. Do not look at beauty, but pay attention to your family." Mishnah Tanit, 4:8. The 15th of Av is undoubtedly the most mysterious day of the Jewish calendar. If you look into the Shulchan Aruch, the code of Jewish law, you will not find any mention of any rituals on this day. Some researchers believe that this custom arose due to the fact that the 15th of Av in Palestine, Judea, was the beginning of the grape harvest, which ended on the eve of the Day of Judgment. However, the sages of the Talmud offered several other explanations. The most interesting explanation belongs to Rabbah bar Hannah, Babylonian Talmud, Bava Butra, 121b. According to him, during the time of the judges, it was on the 15th of Av that men from the tribe of Benjamin were allowed to take wives from other tribes of Israel. Let me remind you what we are talking about. After the inhabitants of the city of Gibeah, located in the lot of Benjamin, brutally violated the concubine of a passing Levite, the other tribes declared war on the tribe of Benjamin. At first, luck favored Benjamin, whose army won 2 victories. However, in the third, decisive battle, the combined forces 11 tribes inflicted a crushing defeat on him and, having killed all the women of the tribe of Benjamin, gathered in Mizpah and solemnly swore, "None of us will give his daughter to the sons of Benjamin in marriage." Shoftim, 21:1. This threatened that one of the tribes of Israel would die out completely. However, the Jews came to their senses. According to Rav Yehuda, this happened on the 15th of Av, and even found a way to solve the problem without formally violating the national oath, and the elders of the congregation said, "What shall we do with those who remain, concerning wives, since the women of Benjamin have been destroyed?" And they said, "Let the inheritance land remain for the surviving sons of Benjamin, lest the tribe perish from Israel, but we cannot give them wives from our daughters, for the children of Israel have sworn, saying, Cursed is he who gives a wife to Benjamin." And they said, "Behold, there is a feast of the Lord every year in Shalom, by the way that goes down from Bethel to Shechem, and south of Lebonah." And they commanded the sons of Benjamin, saying, "Go and lie in wait in the vineyards." Babylonian Talmud, Tanit, 30b, and see, when the maidens of Shalom come out to dance in the dances, then go out of the vineyards, and seize for yourselves each one a wife of the maidens of Shalom, and go into the land of Benjamin. And it shall come to pass, when their fathers or their brethren come to complain to us, that we will say unto them, Pardon us for these things, for we took not a wife for every one of them in the war, neither did ye give them, now ye have been guilty. And the sons of Benjamin did so, and took wives according to their number from among those that were in the dance, whom they had carried off, and they went and returned unto their inheritance, and built cities, and dwelt in them. Shoftim, 21:16-23, contrary to the rules, contrary to the interests of the tribe and the family. The sages went for a spontaneous rapprochement of the tribes. On the 15th of Av, all prohibitions on marriages between representatives of different tribes were officially lifted. The 15th generation of Jews in historical perspective is considered to be the generation of Shlomo, Solomon, when Jewish statehood reached its apogee. A shield of 4 parts. In the first and fourth azure parts, a golden lion with scarlet eyes and tongue, holding 3 silver arrows in its paws. In the second and third gold parts, a scarlet winged wheel. The shield is crowned with a noble crowned helmet. Crest, 5 ostrich feathers, of which the middle and outer ones are azure, the second and third are gold. The middle feather is burdened with a silver geometric figure of 2 connected triangles. Mantling, azure with gold. Motto, God is my help, in gold letters on an azure ribbon. Shield. Shield in a purple field, a shield, French, silver raised, oppressed, also flattened, rafter, on which in the center is depicted a stone, green jasper, from the breastplate of the high priest. The rafter is accompanied by 3 figures: 1, dexter, wings of the angel who gave the prophecy; 2, sinister, bow and quiver with arrows, family connection with the tribe of Benjamin; 3, the depicted figurative diptych with rounded upper edges, similar to 2 raised and pressed knees, which stands firmly on the ground. In the upper part of the diptych is depicted the Star of David. The diptych sacredly depicts the tablets of the covenant. The diptych framing the figure, dexter, on the right side are weighted figures, the depicted wall of the Jerusalem temple and 4 praying Jews. The 4 praying Jews signify, first of all, that from which everything is built: fire, water, air, earth. They also signify the 4 cardinal directions. They also signify the main virtues of man: stability, fortitude, blessing, and mercy. Ominously, on the left side of the diptych are depicted burdensome figures: a sower in a Jewish streamel, who sows on the ground on which the diptych firmly stands, seeds, the word of God. Helmet. Jewish helmet, army of first Jewish king Saul, with silver border, turned half-turn, with 4 visible bars of the grill, surmounted by a bourlet and a claynid, located in profile. Wreath. A length of twisted cloth wreath twisted from metal ribbons and enamel painted in the main colors of the coat of arms, purple and silver. It consists of 6 turns. Crest. A distinctive figure on top of the helm was a figure depicting a wolf, Isant, with an open mouth and a protruding red tongue, Lampas. Mantling. Mantling, a flowing cloth, color front, purple, inside, silver. Motto. Motto, an inspirational phrase, ribbon color gold inscription shield color phrase. Cry. Cry ribbon color gold inscription phrase color shield. Explanations of the colors of the coat of arms. 1. Purple. The color is obtained by mixing different colors together. This color corresponds to the color of the banner of Benjamin, the founder of our family. 2. Silver color, corresponds to the color of silver from which the ring was made according to the angel's instructions. 3. Green, the color of jasper, the first stone from the breastplate of the high priest, this is the stone of the Benjamin family. Explanations for the crest, kleinod, of the coat of arms on the banner of the Benjamin family. A wolf was depicted. Sign of the family, explanations for the coat of arms. Cry. With this cry my ancestors together with all their clan, the clan of Benjamin, entered the promised land. In English the cry means, be strong and be bold. Explanations for the coat of arms. Motto. My family originates from the ancient rabbis and military leaders. See the book, The Ring of King Solomon, where their burials were found in the Baltic region. All my ancestors and I myself begin our day with the words, with the blessing of God. This is how the motto is translated into English. I want to explain how cry and motto appeared in my family coat of arms. God created disease. God created what to treat this disease with. JTM, Jewish Traditional Medicine, studies the will of the Creator both in the cause of the disease and how, according to the will of the Creator, this disease should be treated. Only understanding and studying the will of the Creator leads to the correct treatment of diseases. The main principle of JTM, Jewish Traditional Medicine, is, do no harm. Therefore, JTM, Jewish Traditional Medicine, begins with a prayer to God. When a living organism is created, a unique life protection system given by the Creator is embedded. The doctor, with his prayer, his faith in the Creator and his will, asks the Creator to activate this system in the patient. The doctor asks the Creator to help find the right path and means, medicines, in treating the disease. The patient, with his prayer, his faith in the Creator and his will, strengthens the doctor's prayer. The doctor's knowledge of God's pharmacy. The doctor's understanding of the causes and rules for treating diseases is the key to success. Knowledge of JTM, Jewish Traditional Medicine, is understanding and knowledge of the will of the Creator. Only God-sanctioned intervention in the object of creation will lead to success. Everything new is long forgotten old. God's pharmacy is everything that surrounds us. The secrets of using God's pharmacy in JTM, Jewish traditional medicine, are passed down from generation to generation. These secrets, accumulated by JTM, Jewish traditional medicine, doctors, are the traditional values of JTM, Jewish traditional medicine. My ancestors were doctors for many generations. And from generation to generation they collected recipes for using God's pharmacy and treatment methods that were used in Jewish communities by various Jewish doctors. All stories and acquired knowledge were recorded in diaries. The diaries helped me write my books on JTM, Jewish traditional medicine. My family coat of arms has a motto and a slogan that connect this coat of arms with Jewish traditional medicine. Many generations of my ancestors were doctors, and this profession was passed down from generation to generation. I know from the words of my grandfather Jonah ben Burl and Sarah, and from the words of my father Burl ben Jonah and Esther, surnames were not used among Jews until they were forced to take surnames in Europe and Tsarist Russia. Most often, profession and social status were used for the surname. Rabbis took the surname Rabinovich, teachers and scientists Shulman Shulmanovich, etc. In my grandfather's diary, I found a record of a prescription he received from a Jewish doctor during my grandfather's expedition to the Jewish shtetls of Ukraine. Recipe, Rambam tincture, prepared according to the recipe of a Jewish doctor, originally from the resettled Jews, in 1781 in the Kherson province from the Estland island of Dago. It was used to treat glandular tumors. This unique recipe has been undeservedly forgotten. This tincture inhibits the development and metastasis of glandular tumors, for example, prostate and mammary gland tumors. According to my grandfather's notes, before and after taking this tincture, you need to pronounce certain words. It is also necessary to have a Jerusalem talisman, which this doctor made. When creating my family coat of arms, these words were used as the lamentation and motto. This was done because the words of the lamentation were already written on a ring that had been passed down in my family for many generations. See the book King Solomon's Ring. According to my grandfather's notes, the tincture really helps. I made this tincture and gave it to my patients. I am a urologist by profession, patients with prostate adenoma. I can only confirm the records of my grandfather. This tincture is worthy of being a traditional value.